WWE has done it with Liv Morgan. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what they did. Now, my name is Andrew Ravens. I've been covering pro wrestling professionally since 2013. And I got to say, throughout this time, and especially as a lifelong fan, what they've done with Liv Morgan, and I'm going to tell you that here in a moment, is pretty remarkable. And you have to go back and you have to look at the evolution of women's wrestling to really appreciate this. And I want to go back even further than what you may think. Because WWE and its booking of women, well, it's been quite controversial in times, right? We've gone from traditional 70s, 80s, early 90s women's wrestling to the point where they were booked pretty strongly, right? And old school traditional wrestling. And then things changed in the 90s. WWE particular got rid of its women's division, right? We had Alundra Blaze, aka Medusa, doing her thing. But once she left the company, they pretty much did away with it. Once she dropped the title in a trash can, they did away with it. Then we turned it into bra and panties, risque programming, right? That's what the Attitude Era was built on. Shoot promos, short matches, it's all about the characters. The entire show is just character-driven, and really you didn't get good in-ring action until the pay-per-view events, and even then it wasn't the greatest. Like, if we compare today's style to then, we compare the mid-2000s, the 2010s to the Attitude Era, it's night and day in terms of wrestling. And it's night and day in terms of how they've treated its women's wrestling. We went then from the Puppies era to, okay, we have the likes of Trish Stratus and Lita and Molly Holly and those types, and Victoria, taking wrestling more seriously, trying to get the company to invest in women's wrestling. We then go through the Divas era, where it was about a bunch of short matches and eye candy, and it was just kind of ridiculous stuff, right? And oh, by the way, let's not forget all the Playboy days, right? Whether it be Sable, Tori Wilson, The Lights Goes On, Ashley Massaro, Candice. So we go on. Then we go into the mid-2000s, where women's wrestling gets a revolution, where the fans and the women down in NXT, they started to change the culture. TNA had already been doing so. Then we go to the evolution in the later 2010s, and now we're in the golden era, in my opinion, where women's wrestling is taken very, very seriously. They have the exact same style as the men. They are presented the same way. Triple H has only enhanced that. Even under Vince McMahon's watch, we got the very first ever women's WrestleMania main event with Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 35 in 2019. We also got WrestleMania 21. That was another one. And as time has gone on, women's wrestling has really caught on, and it's catching fire, and people love it. Now we have Liv Morgan, who is doing the best character work of her entire career. And she is in a feud with Dominic Mysterio, and that leads me to today's video. I had to recap all that because I want to make it very clear that Liv Morgan did something that I don't think fans really thought was realistic. We have gone from the PG era, and we're technically still in it, sort of. The TV rating is still PG, but it's really not PG anymore, right? We have more, we're trying to get blood on television. Wrestlers are cursing on television, and now Liv Morgan did the unthinkable, and now she's bringing back sexy, risque programming, a la her segments with Dominic Mysterio as she tries to lure him away from Rhea Ripley. Last few weeks on Monday Night Raw, what do we get? Her inviting him to her hotel room, her unzipping his pants, stuff like that. Stuff like that, segments like that, moments like that was once unheard of. It was unthinkable to actually happen on television. Now, I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that it's happening. And I think if you really want to come down to this argument, which fans had the argument for years of, well, we need to bring back the Attitude Era. WWE needs to get more edgy, yada, yada, yada. Everyone thought that was the answers to WWE's problems. Ironically, they never pulled the trigger on that option until now, and when their business is on absolute freaking fire, they're selling out everywhere, record business, breaking live event attendance records and gates records and all this other stuff. That's when they bring this stuff back. And while, yes, we got cursing on television for months now, especially since The Rock returned in January, it's not only been recent additions of blood, a la Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles, and their I Quit match at the recent pay-per-view event, Clash at the Castle, but now it's Morgan bringing back this risque stuff. And if you want the Attitude Era, you have to have all three of those elements, because that's what made it so strong. I've also noticed something that's kind of been under the radar, which is just like Vince Russo's inspired yet very filtered world of the Attitude Era, something in which they carried over in the years following his departure for WCW. Everyone is on the show, and everyone has a storyline. They all have characters. They're all over the top. Yes, there's still a focus on in-ring action, but I think there's more character development going on now than there has in recent memory, which is quite fitting. We've also seen AEW adopt this, where they have started to go to more promo work. They've started to do more segments and vignettes. I think that's good for their product. I think WWE is heading in a good direction. I think that it was realistic to say that they had to pivot away from what they were doing with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline coming out of WrestleMania, because you did not have Roman Reigns and that Bloodline any longer. That was what was getting people to their television sets. On Monday Night Raw, you had the return, you had the continued rise of Cody Rhodes, you had the turn of Drew McIntyre, you had the explosion of popularity of that show, which is hard to do considering it's a 3-hour show. You had the return of The Rock, you had Seth Rollins still doing the dang thing, you had Rhea Ripley having a year of her life in 2023, heading into 2024. The man came back around with Becky Lynch, right? They got a bunch of talent back, they signed some talent. Like, WWE was in a very good place in 2023, and it had all of the ingredients for just an absolute explosion in 2024, and that's what we're getting, and that's what we have gotten thus far as we march our way halfway through the year, right? I think this is a good thing. I think WWE is on the right track, and I look forward to seeing more of what they can offer us in the months come. Let me know down in the comments area below. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you are notified every single time we upload new wrestling content here to the channel. And in this video, I sign off to you.